Welcome to the Inspiration for an Empowered Life podcast, sponsored by the Image Designers. They will help you look prosperous, feel prosperous, and be prosperous. Now, here's your host, the Image Master, Holly Porter.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to the podcast today. I have another great guest who is just another fabulous entrepreneur and sales guru. Can I call you that? We have Sarah Michaels. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, Miss Holly?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to have a conversation with you, with everyone.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here for sure.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I know sales are your thing and you work with, lots of people and help them be rock stars at selling. What else can you share with us about you?
Well, so yeah, I help visionary entrepreneurs who really want to get comfortable on that internal level with sales and marketing. And part of that is the 7 essential money-making conversations, which I teach. Nobody else teaches them. And part of that is finding words to articulate really hard to describe intangible services in a way that other people actually can get. Yay.
Yay.
And then the marketing that goes along with it, because we can't disentangle a sales conversation from the messaging, from the marketing, from the client attraction, from the lead generation. It's all an interconnected system. So I work in all of it in order to then get you easier and more fun sales calls that convert more often.
So would you consider yourself more of a strategist or a coach or consultant?
I'm a coach with a heck of a lot of strategy and mindset, for that matter, because part of getting comfortable is the mindset piece. I work with masculine and feminine survival instincts. And let's just say, ladies, that the feminine survival instinct would have us crawl under a rock and stay there.
Yeah.
And, instead of doing the actions, the marketing and the sales for our business that we need to do to be successful. And if you can actually get comfortable and not be freaked out by all these situations and conversations and activities and messaging and marketing, then everything you do is going to be stronger, it's going to work easier, and it's going to be a whole lot more fun.
Totally. It's interesting that I have never interviewed a male on my show. And not that I wouldn't. At first, I started it to interview most of my authors.
Right.
And anyone that wanted that opportunity. And then we've just kind of squeezed in some other fabulous rock stars in between that. But it's been interesting because I'm like, wow, I should get someone really cool for my first male guest, because it's not just for women,
Right.
And it's interesting. So are most of your clients male, female?
Well, most of my clients are female, just because I have that body of work that really does benefit women. And, I kind of have like one guy, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this lone star dude with me, in my client load regularly.
Well, I always got along with men better than women, not that I fought with anyone, but I just felt like, I don't know, you get the drama out of it a little bit more, and they're great.
Well, it can be easier. Yes. I could go into survival instinct,
right?
Like silo pit, hole about that. 'Cause there's a lot of reasons where, yeah, it can seem like that.
So what are the most, maybe one or two that you can think of the challenges that your clients are facing right now in the structure and how things are changing? Things are changing all the time. So
things are changing all the time. The thing with how things are changing for a lot of my clients, honestly, they haven't necessarily gotten their feet under them. So the changes, you got to have a baseline to then change from.
Yeah.
So typically my clients have done all the programs, guys, all the trainings, all the courses, and I call them pieces parts, marketing and sales pieces parts. And that's where it's an interconnected system. It's got to all fit together. So A, they don't have an overarching strategy that's making this interconnected system work. But B, we learn all these step by step, but there's often like 16 steps to a step, right?
Yes.
And to actually execute and implement. Or there's steps in between that are let off. So anyway, like filling in the gaps and helping folks understand what they learned, we want to use this wonderful thing, this training you spent thousands of dollars on, understand how to use it, make it your own, and then go out there. But mostly they're struggling with, getting the sales conversations and having the sales conversations say yes.
Okay, so speaking of that, how do you feel? What is your personal thoughts on the rob and duplicate? Have you heard that
Rob
before?
and duplicate?
So yeah, like they
Tell me
get
about that. I think I know, but I've never heard it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I always say rob and duplicate, don't copy, because I feel like people's original work and their intellectual property is their intellectual property.
Right.
So you pay for, I've taken some courses where they're like, no, you steal everything I have, just change and give it your own flavor, And then there's other people that just go copy other people's ideas, which I think is wrong. And so, I'm giving you my opinion. I'm just wondering, like, these people that take all these courses and they're creating, their own stuff. Everybody's entitled to their own inspiration on their own work, but I feel like, I just wonder what you thought about that, because a lot of people.
That's a really good question. I like that. So, like there's being inspired by somebody, and having that, and or, looking at something you like. But here's the thing, guys, that's where I try to teach folks the strategy behind something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that natural ability, I actually do. I see something, I'm like, oh, she put that there because of this, and this is there because of that, like on a sales page. Is that if you don't have that discernment, the impulse to just copy can be very great, right? But it can be a great source of education to go and like dissect strategically what someone else did and then mimic it in your own way. That's the making it your own part. So, and I think that's what you mean by like, looking and being inspired. Then there's the, taking somebody's body of work part of what you just said, co-opting, borrowing. And here's how I feel about that, because that does go on a lot in our industry. It's an expert industry, right? And once it's in your head, I can understand, like I learn stuff and I can like coach it 5 minutes later. Like it just goes right through me and back out. It's always really funny because I'll learn something and then a client will show up that same afternoon that needs that information too, And so there's that piece. But at that point, attribute it. Like I just learned this from my coach. You know what I mean? And there's also the aspect, I've thought a lot about this, that there's nothing new under the sun, right? Yeah. And I also have had a theory for 20 years, which Elizabeth Gilbert in her book, Big Magic, basically reinforced. She was talking about what I was talking about for like the last 20 years, is that ideas move.
Yes.
And they go from person to person. And like, if you don't grab an idea, if you don't do it in a bit, like it will move on to somebody else who might be better ready or, not got anything else going on. So sure, I'll hop into that.
Oh, you just read my mind. Like seriously, when you were saying that, I was just going to say, God gives more than one person inventions and ideas and gifts, because people are action takers. And so the ones that take the action are the ones that are moving forward. The ones that don't, he knows that he can't just give this one idea to one person.
Right. That would be, it's like, you would not enough of a spray. Exactly. And so there's that piece where like, how do you say that, I know for me, one of my mentors, she hired me because she saw I was doing her work, like doing her work so well. It was a messaging. And, but I'd been doing like 95% of what she taught that's so effective already. So that, that was a little interesting, but I could clearly see. I've also had experiences where, I've had to ask mutual friends who've taken certain training with me, like, is this mine or is this hers? And they validated, like, no, actually, I've never heard her say that. I can see how you took what she taught us and came up with that. Like, I can see the lineage, but no, you should own that, Sarah. And then there's and I think it comes from fear and survival instinct when people just copy somebody else's body of work. I just sent a worksheet to somebody this morning that she could totally copy. It's a brilliant worksheet worth about, I don't know, a lot of money, or at least $500, about reverse engineering your purpose from your passions and getting a lot of confidence and then aligning that with your business services. So it's a lot easier to say I charge $400 an hour when you're like, look at the straight lines between all my preparation.
Yeah. No, it's true. The work, there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So you often talk about sales as leadership. What do you mean by that?
Well, sales is leadership. So we're all trying, because of the survival instinct of the feminine, we're all trying so hard not to pressure people, not to come across as manipulative or slimy or salesy, that we can overcorrect and we can end up going too light, a little meek. And the pitfall is we associate being direct with being manipulative. Okay, when really being direct in a really authentic way is not manipulative. Okay, it's just direct. So sales as leadership is both in the marketing, like in your posts, in your thought leadership, in your emails, in your blog posts, but also in conversations, that if you're going to sell something to this person, you need to take charge. They need to feel like you've got them. They need to feel held. They need to feel like you know where they're going, because they don't. And if you're too light and flowy, and you know, one gal told me she gets on connection calls, which is like you already know each other, but you're really getting, you know, to interact more. And she's like, well, what do I do? You know, 6 minutes later, we're both watching panda videos on YouTube. And I was like, oh, like there's no leadership there, you know, versus like chit chat a little bit, but then like, hey, tell me more about your business. Back to business, you know. Let's talk about business. We're here to
Thank you for listening to the Inspiration for an Empowered Life podcast, sponsored by the Image Designers. They will help you look prosperous, feel prosperous, and be prosperous. You can learn more about them at theimagedesigners.com or email Holly at hollyporter.com.
I mean, the 7 essential money-making conversations quickly are the initial conversation, first meeting, the connection conversation, which is what I just mentioned, turning a friendly conversation into a sales conversation, which is ninja level, and the sales conversation, yes, the consultative, compassionate sales, whatever you want to call it, the more heart-based consultation model that we all learn. Of course, that's in there, doing that really powerful. But I separate the offer conversation from the sales conversation. So that's 5. And then 6 is the money conversation. Let's actually have the money words come out of our mouth. And then let's talk about payment plans and credit and whatever, in a way that our stuff doesn't affect their stuff, right?
Yes.
And then lastly is like the follow-up conversation or the reconnection conversation. And one of the ways my brain works is I start seeing patterns, and, you know, over the past 6 years, these conversations have clarified in my mind, kind of culminating with when I really knew I was onto something was, you know, I taught, and this is where, you know, sales is service, right? We all hear that, you know, if you could just shift from I'm doing, you know, I'm selling to, which I don't allow in my sphere. We don't use that language. We use empowering language. And instead of I'm selling to, but I'm serving in making this offer. When you can do that, you know, it's really brilliant. So what I found happened, so I met a gal at a networking event. We had a connection call, could totally hear she needed me. Everything she said was, Sarah, I need you. And I didn't want to make her feel weird because we got along so well. I didn't want to pounce on her, as I call it. I didn't want to level jump. And so I didn't do anything. Okay, well, let's keep in touch. 6 months later, I followed up with her. Same thing. Didn't know, got woodgy. 6 months later, so we're now at a year.
Wow.
We're following up. Same problems. And I heard in my head, Sarah, you have to get over yourself. This woman needs you, and she doesn't know it. And she doesn't know you can help her. You know, get over whatever she should know by now. But she didn't. And it's my responsibility to connect the dots. So that was a huge epiphany around how do you then segue this friendly conversation into a sales conversation and have everybody feel cool about it. And one thing I say is they always say yes to at least exploring it.
Sure.
They don't always say yes to the offer, right?
Yeah.
They might be up to other things. You just surprised them, whatever.
Right.
We didn't come to this call with that context.
Well, and I would add to that, the people that aren't willing to explore that conversation, first of all, they're not clients for you, and maybe they just don't want to move forward. Like maybe they really don't. There are people
Well,
that like to
yeah,
be
no,
stuck.
definitely. But what I found is the possibility of like, can I ask some more questions and make sure we're a
Yeah.
fit? Because that's kind of the segue with turning a friendly. It's you don't know yet, but you've got
Right.
an inkling. And it's can we maybe dig a little deeper? Because I may
Yeah.
be able to help you. It's kind of that energy of it. Um, a little more firm than that. But
Sure.
they always say yes to it because they're at least
Mhm.
intrigued to find out
Yeah.
if.
Well, and you have built that rapport and relationship with her over a year. Shame on
Well, but
you.
this can happen. I've done this now in one conversation. At
Yeah.
least made that segue, is, hey, I'm hearing a lot of ways. I need to know more, but should we? Should we talk about that? Is kind of the
Oh,
ask. Yeah.
yeah. I love
And
that.
individualizing that. Yeah.
Very good way to work that. So you mentioned turning a friendly conversation into the sales conversation. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
And you
And
just
actually,
did, but
we just did. The thing with that, I guess I'll say that I didn't already just say,
yeah.
is what makes that kosher, what makes that okay, that moment, because it's a very gracious, but also or gracious and spacious. You offer a lot of space. That's I don't know, but I need to ask some more. You want to go there? But there's space for there to be a lot of things going on. It's not very like, I know I can help you. We should talk about that.
Right.
What makes that gracious and spacious and direct moment feel good to both you and them is before that moment, you need to get and keep them talking about the thing you can help with that they need for about 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
And it's not that dissimilar from a sales conversation, but you need to have like one important strategic question at the beginning that gets them talking. And it's strategic, but not salesy. Like I had a guy say, actually at JBX, where I met you in person, at least the first time
Right.
last fall, say to me like, well, would you like to double your ROI in 2018? And I just started laughing because I had just introduced myself.
You're like,
And I was like, oh my God, honey, I can see you coming. That's really weird. But for him, it could just be just as easy to say, like, tell me how you navigate the cash flow highs and lows as you grow your business. Because she's going to get a mountain of information about where they're at, if they're even concerned about ROI, or they're just keeping their head above water. They're going to just all this information comes out. So you want that key, I call it a pointed question that gets them talking without putting them on the defensive and making them feel like you just shifted or switched. And then you just keep digging deeper. Tell me more about that. Take a little piece of what they just said and ask them to expand on it. But keep them talking for 10 or 15 to 20 minutes. And then do the segue of turning the friendly conversation into a sales conversation. And it feels really good because they've just been talking about it for 15 to 20 minutes. And oh my God, I guess I do need. And if you can help, okay, let's talk.
Yes. And that's part of the surrender process that I share with people, that at some point, that's what we just have to do. Surrender to know whatever you need to know.
Yep.
Get it,
Exactly.
It's the light bulb moment, when it's like, oh, I really need the help. Maybe this person can be that person, can help me figure this all out. Yeah. Because
and of course, God is putting us all in each other's paths. And, so that's part of it is like, look at what is right in front of me.
Right. Yeah. No, right. Well, I know you had something to share with our listeners, and that was very gracious of you to offer something. So your free gift, you want to talk about that?
Sure. The free gift is the 7 Essential Money-Making Conversations Flowchart. And what you're going to get the key elements and the specific goals of each of those 7 conversations. And it's all designed so you can navigate any conversation in a way that's powerful. And if there's money in there, find it. Like, because it's not every conversation, right, guys? But you will find the money in the conversations and be able to lead them through the next conversation and get them into a sales conversation if that's appropriate.
Well,
And you want me to give the URL and stuff?
No, I'm going to post
right.
it below for them just because a lot of people are listening on the go. And
got it.
so you'll have it in the link below and you can contact you. Is that where also they can contact you, or do you want to give any other information of contact?
If you want to contact me or you want to, schedule a conversation so we can talk and, I won't pounce on you, but if you need something, I might turn a friendly into a sales conversation. You can go to talkwithsarah.com.
Okay.
And sign up and we will.
And you're SARAH.
Oh yeah, SARAH. Well, yeah, I'll spell that. So TALKWITHSARAH.com.
That they can remember.
That they can remember. That's why I bought it.
Yeah. Well, I love your energy, Sarah, and I love how you just kind of plug in right at the right time. And I know that you could serve a lot of our listeners. And so anyone listening, reach out, make sure you get Sarah's free gift and see what you can do with that, because I love that. The 7. I'm excited.
Nobody else is doing it, y'all. What was that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to get it myself,
Right on. Well, thank you, Miss Holly. This has been super fun.
So thank you. Yes, thank you. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. We will see you on the next podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you for listening to the Inspiration for an Empowered Life podcast, sponsored by the Image Designers. They will help you look prosperous, feel prosperous, and be prosperous. You can learn more about them at theimagedesigners.com or email Holly at hollyporter.com.